Sometimes the world doesn't break you because you're weak. It breaks you because you're stronger than the lies built against you. And this is the story of a woman the world misjudged. Her name was Aria Cole, a black single mother, standing alone in a courtroom filled with people waiting for her to fail. The room was packed: journalists, lawyers, whispering spectators, and at the center, Aria stood without a lawyer, without a supporter, without anyone holding her hand. On the right side sat her ex-husband, Damon Hale, and right behind him, the powerful Hale family, one of the richest, most politically connected families in the state. The judge entered. Everyone rose. But even before he sat down, you could feel it. The judge didn't believe Aria had a chance today. Not because of evidence, but because of who she was. A black woman, a single mother, a factory worker, and in their eyes, the weakest person in the room. Her 8-year-old son, Leo, sat with social services. He kept looking at his mother with wide, terrified eyes, as if he feared today would be the last day he ever saw her. The opposing lawyer smiled, a smile that carried arrogance, confidence, and a certainty of victory. "Your Honor," he began, "we seek full custody of Leo Hale. The child is unsafe with the mother. She is financially unstable, mentally fragile, and unfit to raise a child." He said those words with a voice full of poison. Yet the judge didn't object. He didn't question a single claim, that he simply nodded as if everything said about Aria was old news. Aria didn't move. She kept her hands together, calm, almost too calm. But her eyes held a storm. The lawyer continued, "Your Honor, we have reports, hospital records, police notes, all indicating that Miss Cole has exhibited dangerous behavior." Then they placed a thick folder on the table, a folder that screamed guilt, danger, unfitness, a folder that could destroy any mother's reputation in seconds. Whispers filled the courtroom. "Is she really that unstable? I heard she attacked someone. She works in a factory. What does she know about parenting? Maybe the child really belongs with the Hale family." Aria heard every whisper. She heard every insult. But she stood silent, as if waiting. The lawyer walked toward the judge and lowered his voice. "Your Honor, Miss Cole has a history of psychological episodes. The reports are clear. Leo's life is at stake." The judge tapped the folder, looked straight at Aria, and said the first words to her. "Miss Cole, do you have anything to say in your defense?" The courtroom went silent. Even Damon smirked. He was sure she had nothing. Aria slowly stepped forward. Her footsteps echoed sharply across the marble floor. She stopped, looked around, and spoke softly. "I know what you all think of me." The room froze. "I know the labels you placed on me long before this hearing even started. Factory worker, poor, black, single mother, unstable." Her voice did not shake, not even once. "You think I don't belong here, that I don't deserve my child, that I can't protect him." The lawyer laughed under his breath. Aria continued, "But before you decide my fate, before you decide my son's life, let me tell you something." She walked toward the table. Her fingers touched the folder filled with fake evidence. She lifted it slowly, and it hit the mic with a dull thud. Everyone leaned forward. "This folder," she said, "is the reason you think I am unfit. But this folder is not my truth. And before this hearing ends, you will all know why this evidence exists." The opposing lawyer stood up angrily. "Your Honor." Aria cut him off. "No, you've spoken enough lies today. It's my turn." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was powerful. The judge narrowed his eyes. Something about her tone made him lean in. Aria pulled out a single sheet from the folder. "You say I'm mentally unstable. You say I'm dangerous. You say I'm incapable of raising Leo." She held the page up. "This report was created by someone with access to restricted medical systems, someone who knows how to fabricate digital records." The lawyer stepped forward. "That is baseless." She turned and stared at him, a stare so sharp that for a moment he stopped talking. Then she said the sentence that tilted the entire courtroom. "Because the person who created these files didn't know I used to work at the Cybercrime Forensics Division." The room gasped. The judge blinked. Damon froze. Aria continued, "Yes, I wasn't always a factory worker. Before I disappeared, before I hid my identity to protect my son, I investigated digital crimes for the government. Cameras clicked, reporters leaned forward. Everything changed in one breath. Aria raised the forged report high. And this document, this entire folder, is a forgery. The lawyer yelled, "Lies! Your Honor, this woman." But Aria wasn't finished. She placed the report down and leaned into the mic. "I know who did it, that I know why they did it. And I know exactly which member of the Hale family tried to destroy me." A chill spread through the courtroom. Even Leo stopped crying. And slowly, Aria looked over her shoulder, directly at Damon's mother, Marilyn Hale. The woman stiffened. Aria whispered, but the entire hall heard it. "You wanted my son. You were willing to fake evidence. You were willing to destroy me." Silence. A silence that tasted like fear. Then Aria said, "Your Honor, this hearing has nothing to do with my fitness as a mother. This is a cover-up, and I'm ready to show you everything." The courtroom exploded into chaos. Journalists shouted. Lawyers scrambled. The judge raised his hand, banging the gavel repeatedly. And as order slowly returned, everyone realized one thing. The woman they thought was weak was about to become the most dangerous person in the room. The moment Aria revealed her past, the courtroom changed. People who were laughing at her minutes ago were now staring at her like she was a ticking bomb. The judge leaned forward, his voice lower, more cautious now. "Miss Cole, you're telling this court that these documents, these reports, were forged." Aria didn't blink. "They weren't just forged, Your Honor. They were engineered." The opposing lawyer, Mr. Vance, slammed his hand on the table. "Your Honor, this is theatrics. This woman is lying to escape responsibility. She was a low-wage factory worker, not a cyber specialist." Aria slowly turned to him. "Mr. Vance, the last time you tried to intimidate a witness, your license was almost suspended." The lawyer froze. Gasps echoed across the room. Aria walked to the center as if she owned the floor. "You want the truth?" She held up a small USB drive. "The truth is right here," Mr. Vance shouted. "She is trying to manipulate the court." But Aria raised her hand. "Your Honor, I can prove who created every fake file in that folder. Dates, times, login IDs, IP addresses, every single detail." The judge narrowed his eyes. "Present your evidence." Mr. Vance panicked. "Your Honor, this is outrageous." The judge cut him sharply. "Sit down." Now, the powerful attorney, who usually terrorized people in courtrooms, slowly sank into his seat, defeated by just a look from Aria. She connected the USB to the court monitor. The screen lit up. A digital log appeared, color-coded, perfectly organized, unmistakably professional. Aria spoke calmly. "This is the access log of the same medical database this fake report claims to come from." The screen zoomed in. "All entries under my name are fabricated. Someone used a spoofed credential profile, but the forger made one mistake." She clicked. A line flashed red. "Every fake login comes from the same device, the Hale family's private server." The entire Hale family stiffened. Damon's mother, Marilyn, grabbed the edge of the bench, her knuckles turning white. Aria walked closer to her. "You forged my mental health records. You bribed a clinic. You tried to paint me as unstable so you could take Leo away." The judge's voice shook slightly. "Miss Aria, are you implying that the Hale family intentionally manipulated medical records?" Aria turned to him. "No, Your Honor." She pointed directly at Marilyn Hale. "I am saying that SHE did." The courtroom erupted with noise. Marilyn stood up, trembling with anger. "How dare you accuse me?" She pointed at Aria. "You abandoned that child. You disappeared. You." Aria stepped closer. Her voice, cold and steady, cut through every scream. "I disappeared because your family threatened my life." Silence. A silence so deep you could hear Leo breathing. The judge stiffened. "Explain." Aria took a deep breath. 8 years ago, I uncovered a financial laundering network inside a government department." She paused, and the trails led to the Hale Corporation. Damon's face drained of color. "I took the evidence to my supervisor. 2 days later, My apartment was broken into. My files vanished, and I received a message. She stared straight at Marilyn. Leave the city or lose everything. Journalists shot up from their seats. Flashlights exploded. Pens scribbled rapidly. This wasn't a custody case anymore. This was a scandal. Aria continued. I destroyed my phone, burned every trace of my work, and I left because I was pregnant and I knew they would come for my child. Marilyn shouted. You're insane. This is all a story. Aria opened another file on the screen. It showed text messages, threats, bank transfers, anonymous warnings, all traced to accounts linked to the Hale Foundation. This is your story, Marilyn, not mine. The judge rubbed his forehead, overwhelmed. Mr. Vance jumped up again, desperate. Your Honor, this evidence is circumstantial. Aria turned. What's circumstantial, Mr. Vance? The fact that you were paid by the Hales to suppress witnesses, or the fact that your firm received a donation exactly 1 day after you took this case? The courtroom gasped again. Mr. Vance stumbled backward, hitting the table. The judge's voice boomed. Order in this court. But there was no order left. Only fear. Fear of what Aria might reveal next. Aria stepped back, her voice steady. Your Honor, I have more, a lot more. Audio recordings, call logs, encrypted messages. Damon finally spoke, shouting, This is all lies. She's painting herself like some hero. Aria looked at him. Damon, you were part of this too. You knew your mother wanted Leo. You knew she forged everything. You knew, and you stayed silent. Damon shook, his voice cracking. Mom said you were dangerous. I trusted her. Aria's eyes softened for the first time. Dangerous? She pointed to Leo. That boy is my entire life. Leo cried louder now, trying to reach her. A guard held him back, gently. Aria's voice softened. I never wanted to expose any of this, that I never wanted a war, that I just wanted to raise my son in peace. Then her tone hardened again. But you try to take everything from me. And when you try to take a mother's child, you awaken something you can't control. The judge exhaled deeply. Miss Cole, I need all your evidence. Everything. Aria nodded. You will have it. But before I give you the rest, she turned to Marilyn and said a sentence that made the entire courtroom shiver. You should have left us alone. Marilyn's lips trembled. Because now, your whole truth is going to burn. The judge banged the gavel. We will take a brief recess. But no one moved. Everyone kept staring at Aria. The woman they underestimated had just started a war. The courtroom emptied for recess, but not a single eye left Aria's face. Everyone wanted to see her next move. Even the most arrogant journalists paused, sensing that history was unfolding. Aria remained standing, calm, composed, her mind racing faster than anyone could imagine. She thought of Leo, of the years she had spent hiding, protecting him, and of the moment when the truth could finally come to light. The judge stepped down from the bench, motioning everyone to take a break. The Hales whispered urgently amongst themselves, their faces pale, their confidence shattered. Marilyn Hale looked at Aria with hatred barely contained. She had underestimated this woman, thought that a factory worker and single mother could never challenge her power. But now, that perception had changed, and fear had replaced arrogance. Aria's mind flashed back to her life before she vanished, before she became invisible. She had been a rising star in cybercrime forensics, a specialist in uncovering fraud, exposing corruption, and tracking digital footprints that no ordinary person could trace. She had worked on a case so sensitive that even top officials had feared its exposure, a case that involved the Hale family indirectly. Back then, she had discovered transactions, messages, and threats that connected them to illegal activities. But revealing them would have endangered not only her career, but her life. When she found out she was pregnant, she made the choice to disappear. She changed her name, moved cities, took menial work to survive, and devoted herself entirely to raising Leo, shielding him from the chaos of her past. Now, 8 years later, the past had returned to haunt her, not just for her, but for the boy she loved more than anything. The same people who had tried to silence her were now attempting to take away her child, and they had no idea that the quiet, soft-spoken woman standing before them was far stronger than they ever imagined. As she waited, Aria reached for her phone in her bag, carefully retrieving encrypted files, recordings, and logs she had prepared just in case the Hale family ever tried to manipulate the system. Every threat, every forged document, every bribe, all of it meticulously recorded, all of it ready to be exposed in court. When the court resumed, Aria placed the first file on the judge's desk. That IT contained financial transactions linked to the Hale family, payments made to the lawyer, and suspicious activity pointing to a deliberate effort to destroy her credibility. The judge raised an eyebrow. This appears substantial. Do you have more? Aria nodded. She presented the call logs next. Phone calls intercepted by a secure system she had maintained, showing threats, instructions, and lies told to various officials and medical staff to ensure her child could be taken. Every time she revealed a new layer of evidence, the Hales' confidence crumbled further. Their whispers became panicked, their expressions flickering between anger and fear. Aria spoke calmly, with an almost hypnotic authority. "Your Honor, I did not come here to humiliate anyone. I only wish to prove that the actions against me were orchestrated, deliberate, and malicious. The false reports, the fabricated evidence, all designed to make a mother appear unfit, so that her child could be taken away by people who wanted control, not love." The opposing lawyer tried to interrupt. "This is irrelevant. These are personal accusations. Where's the proof?" Aria turned slowly, her gaze sharp. "Proof, Mr. Vance? Here, here, and here." She laid down a series of documents, each one exposing a new attempt at deception. Threatening messages, forged digital fingerprints, even an attempt to manipulate Leo's school records to make him appear neglected. The judge studied each document intently. He had heard lies before. He had seen witnesses twist facts. But this was different. Every piece was consistent, precise, and verifiable. Aria then leaned forward, her voice low but powerful. "Your Honor, if this court takes only one thing from today, let be this. I am not the weak person everyone assumes I am. I am a mother, and I will fight for my child, not with threats or money, but with truth, with evidence, with justice." Her words resonated in the silent courtroom. Even the judge could not mask his astonishment. The opposing lawyer sat in disbelief, realizing that the case was slipping from his control. Damon Hale's face had turned pale. His mother, Marilyn, sat frozen, realizing that the empire of lies she had built to manipulate the system was unraveling before her eyes. For the first time, she understood that Aria was no ordinary woman. Aria then pulled out the last piece of evidence, a recording she had secretly captured years ago, when a member of the Hale family had attempted to manipulate documents remotely, sending instructions to create fake records about her mental stability. She pressed play. The voice of Marilyn Hale filled the courtroom, clear and unmistakable. "Make sure she looks unstable. Make sure Leo comes to US, and one must suspect a thing." Gasps echoed. The judge's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his gavel. Damon's jaw tightened. The Hale family's lawyer was speechless. Aria looked at Leo, who was trembling in his seat. She whispered, barely audible, "See, my son, truth always finds a way." Then, addressing the court, her voice strong and unwavering. "Your Honor, this hearing is not just about me. IT is about exposing the manipulation, the corruption, and the lengths to which powerful people will go to take what is not theirs. My son belongs with me. Not because I'm perfect, but because I am his mother, and nothing, no forged document, no bribe, no lie can change that." The judge nodded slowly. "You have presented overwhelming evidence, Miss Cole. We will need time to verify everything, but this changes everything." Marilyn Hale sat down, defeated. Her empire of lies had begun to crumble. Damon could not speak. Leo clung to the guard, eyes wide, sensing that his mother had just become a hero in a way he had never imagined. Aria took a deep breath. Her voice softened, yet carried a quiet menace. "This is only the beginning. If anyone dares harm my son again, or attempts to manipulate his life, they will regret it, because I will not stop. I cannot stop, and I will not forgive." The courtroom remained silent, but the tension was palpable. Everyone knew that Aria Cole was no ordinary woman. She was a force, calm, strategic, and terrifyingly precise. As the judge called for recess again, people in the room whispered among themselves, "She's unstoppable. She knows everything. Be careful what you do next." Aria smiled faintly, not with arrogance, not with malice, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the truth will always win. And Leo finally looked at her with a mixture of awe and relief. For the first time in years, he felt safe, because he knew his mother was a warrior in every sense of the word. The court reconvened after recess. Aria stood at the center, calm, unshaken. She had revealed enough to shake the Hale family to their core. But she was not done. Not yet. The judge addressed the court, his voice steady but cautious. "Miss Cole, we have reviewed your initial evidence. It is compelling, but further verification is required. However, the court recognizes that there is a serious concern about potential fabrication by the opposing party." Marilyn Hale's lips pressed into a thin line. Damon Hale's face was pale, nervous. Even Mr. Vance, the attorney who had once been so confident, sat silently, realizing the tide had turned irrevocably. Aria took a deep breath. She knew that the next few minutes would determine the outcome, not just for Leo, but for the truth itself. "Your Honor," she said, her voice unwavering, "this is not just about evidence. That is about the intention behind the actions. Every forged file, every bribe, every attempt to manipulate the court was orchestrated to take my child away, and the person who planned it sits right there." Her eyes locked on Marilyn Hale. The room went still. Even the journalists leaned forward. They could feel the weight of her words. Aria continued, "Your Honor, I have more evidence. Video recordings, verified digital logs, and witnesses willing to testify anonymously. They confirm that the Hale family deliberately interfered with my life to portray me as unfit. They wanted Leo, not because of love, but because of control, power, and greed." The judge nodded. "Miss Cole, if you have these witnesses and recordings, submit them to the court immediately." Aria pulled out a folder containing encrypted flash drives and notes. She placed them on the judge's desk. Each device was labeled clearly, with dates, times, and details. "This will take time to verify," the judge said, "but the court acknowledges the seriousness of these claims." Marilyn Hale's face was pale, her hands trembling. She realized that the woman she had tried to destroy was now holding the entire truth in her hands. Aria turned her attention to her son. Leo was sitting quietly, eyes wide, gripping the edge of the seat. She whispered to him, "Don't worry, Leo. Mama's got this, and no one can take you away." The judge called for a short recess to review the new evidence. During this break, the Hale family huddled together, frantically discussing their next move. But there was nothing they could do. Aria had the proof, the strategy, and the calmness of someone who had survived much worse. When the court resumed, the judge spoke. After reviewing the submitted evidence, the court finds that there is substantial indication that falsified records were used against Miss Cole. Pending further investigation, the custody of Leo will remain with his mother. A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Journalists scrambled to record the moment. The Hale family could barely contain their shock. For the first time, they were powerless. Aria walked slowly to her son. She knelt down and embraced him, whispering, "You're safe, Leo. I promise." Leo clung to her tightly. Tears streamed down his face. The fear that had haunted him for years was finally replaced with relief and hope. Aria then stood tall, facing the entire courtroom. Her voice carried clearly, resonating with strength and authority. "This is not just a victory for me or my it is a reminder to everyone here. Do not underestimate the quiet, the overlooked, or the dismissed. Strength is not always visible. Courage does not always shout, and truth will always prevail." Marilyn Hale stared at her, her expression a mixture of disbelief and fear. Damon's confidence was shattered. Even the judge and attorneys felt the weight of her words. Aria turned to leave the courtroom, holding Leo's hand firmly. Journalists followed, cameras flashing. People whispered, "She's incredible. She's unstoppable." Outside the courthouse, Aria paused. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on the city streets. She looked at Leo and saw not just a son, but a future, a life free from fear, manipulation, and lies. "Mom," Leo said softly, "did we win?" "Yes, baby," she replied. "We won, and no one will ever take you from me again." As they walked away, the city seemed different. The shadows that had once loomed over her life were gone. The people who had tried to break her were now powerless in the face of her strength. Aria knew the fight wasn't completely over. There would be investigations, legal challenges, and more obstacles. But for the first time in years, she felt free. Free to raise her son. Free to live without fear. And free to show the world that even the quietest, most underestimated people could become the most powerful forces when driven by love and truth. And as the courtroom lights dimmed behind them, one thought echoed in everyone's mind. Never underestimate a mother. Never underestimate Aria Cole. Because the woman they laughed at was the one who had the power to silence everyone with the truth.